I would like to welcome my good friend Samuel Abraham, Deputy Campaign Director of United Party of Canada. Samuel, thank you for joining us today.
How are you, Calvin?
Very well, thank you. Now, I have to open with the big question. Is Canada okay?
So it's a good question, and I think it's one that a lot of people who are not from here or looking to the news here should be asking themselves. It's not, Calvin.
Hmm.
It really isn't, and I can get into so many reasons for that. We've just come out of um, election season. We have a new overlord, Dr. Doom. Dr. Carney is prime minister now, and you might look in that 2 minutes you take to look at Canadian politics and say, what is going on in that strange place up there? And you might see his smile and be charmed, but Calvin, there's a lot to be worried about, but there's a lot to be hopeful as well. So I'm looking forward to chatting to you about that.
Okay, well let's start with the hope. What is there to hope for in Canada at the moment?
Starting with the hope. Well, yeah, if your audience or yourself are listening to me and are like, what, how bad is it? It's pretty bad, and we'll get into that. But the hope is, well,
Oh, that's bad. You're struggling now. Come on.
yeah, well, the hope really comes out of the hope really comes out of uh, knowing the holes or the places that it's not terrible.
Okay.
So look, there's great parts of this country. There's great people here. But look, Calvin, we've had 10 years of Democrats, and
Mm.
we've just signed up for 5 more.
Oh.
Uh, so
So the play, where did the Conservatives win? So I understand there are strongholds in Canada that are almost independent states at this time.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting. The Conservatives won in the rural areas
Mm.
pretty much. There's a kind of split in the politics here between the kind of working man's NDP and the Conservative Party. But after the over the past 10 years, we've had this terrible thing happen where the Conservative Party just have gotten incrementally weaker at election cycles, um, and in their rhetoric, in their bravery to stand up against tyranny. And we've had liberals who have been able to clinch onto power through coalitions and things. So the way it's set up, for quite frustratingly, is the um, rural areas of central Canada, from about north of Montana over to uh, north of, I would say, Wisconsin,
Mm.
is kind of like the equivalent of what's kind of colloquially referred to as the Rust Belt in the U.S.
Right.
It's the hardworking, conservative, Christian, family-orientated farmers who work very hard to prop up the country economically, and they are hoodwinked. They're hoodwinked by these Eastern elites in the kind of uh, cosmopolitan areas of Ottawa and Ontario and Quebec that take their just think they own their votes, and they kind of dog whistle them into handcuffing themselves economically. It's brutal, Calvin. And being out here working with a small party that's grassroots and knocking hundreds of doors, you can see that you can you people are fed up. So
Well,
you
we had your party leader on the show before the election, and he
yeah.
was saying that you're fighting for almost for a republic at this point, and Alberta could be the key to that and lead the way. What's
Oh
the
yes.
strength behind
Yeah.
Alberta?
It's a beautiful word, that republic. Yeah, Calvin, it's very exciting. We have in Alberta here, we have 5 million people. Okay. We have um we have two big cities, Edmonton and Calgary. You probably heard of them because they're whipping your local American hockey teams here in the playoffs, but Oilers particularly. But in those two cities of Edmonton and Calgary, they have about 1.5 million people, and so there's about 3 million people in those kind of heavily populated city areas.
Right.
But outside of that, there's 2 million people. And I would say, Calvin, that these are the most important Canadians that live. These 2 million people that live outside these cities are the most crucial, important communities for the future of Canada, because this republic that Grant has been talking about isn't going to be supported by the rest of Canada. This province of Alberta could become, in Grant's view, the future of Canada by declaring sovereign republic of all Canada, starting with the province of Alberta. And then hopefully Saskatchewan, our eastern neighbors, come along soon, and Manitoba after that, and maybe northern BC after that. But the point is, these 2 million people, and certainly many of the Canadians in the cities here in Alberta, are so important, because this is a place where more than half of the Canadians are Christian. This is a place where they haven't particularly densely populated the country with immigrants. And there's so many reasons.
I do want to get to the demographics in a moment, but let's have a look at the video your party leader Grant Abraham released after the election. Let's have a look at what he had to say about the results.
Hey everyone, just a quick message from United Party of Canada and some reflections the day after the general election. Look, we've got to recognize we have had 3 general elections. The Conservative Party of Canada has lost all 3 because it is trying to compete with the left, going left. It's not going to work, and now we must face a geopolitical reality that the Liberal Party of Canada's agenda is to make Canada a post-nation state. That means the deconstruction of all of the values that we hold dear in this country. It's time to fight tooth and nail. The next round is Alberta sovereignty, because Alberta sovereignty can be the beachhead for freedom for all Canadians. We need to go there. This is our 1776 time, and we need to start having these conversations together intelligently and in unity in Alberta, and I hope that we can do that. Thank you.
So he mentioned the Alberta sovereignty that you were just talking about, but he also said the Conservative Party has been trying to basically out-liberal the Liberals. They've been moving to the centre ground constantly, and this is probably one of the reasons they've lost the last 4 elections. And actually, we're seeing that across the board in the West, aren't we? The Conservatives in the UK are no longer Conservatives. Yeah. What does it take for Conservatives to be Conservative again?
Yeah, these big parties, they get a taste of kind of power, and their voter base, they think they're loyal, and they're sitting in the war room and they're looking at the numbers, and they say, oh, all the farmers and Christians in the rural areas, they love us. Who else are they going to vote for? We're their only hope. Right. Let's just cater slyly to the center. Right. Let's just take a little bit from the other guy, and that that leads you in a value vacuum.
Well, that's what Reform has done as well.
Oh, really? I would be interested to pick your brain on that, but I've been in Canadian politics mode. I haven't been able to watch, but yeah, no. So look, I think talking about sovereignty, Calvin, it's not this alien concept out here. I've been out campaigning grassroots, probably knocked 500 doors myself. Quick flex, my knuckles are raw, and it's been very, very difficult. But what I've gotten to do is speak to a lot of people in this constituency, in this riding, and people are talking about leaving. Yes. There's you drive down the streets here in the towns of rural Alberta. There's the Canadian flag flying upside down. There's the Albertan provincial flag. There's such pride in this nation here. This conversation of separation is happening, Calvin. Like, the equivalent of the governor of our province is talking about this. There are signatures being gathered. If you listen close enough, you can hear the paper hitting the pen hitting the paper of people drafting a new constitution. Like, it's happening, and I can get into what that looks like. But I think Americans need to realize, and Eastern Canadians need to realize, like, it's happening. It's not an alien idea. There's 48% acceptance I saw in recent polls, and the numbers are climbing. It was a bit lower before the election, and I think the main sentiment is that the doors, not to just talk about how many doors I've knocked, but the main sentiment that I gathered was people are like, look, this country is broken. We've got two-tier policing. We've got a constitutional crisis, immigrants pouring in, all these problems. And the Conservatives are our only hope. Now, I would argue that they're not. I would argue that they betrayed the electorate long before,
right.
Rushing to the middle on value issues. And,
We'll get to Carney, but sticking with the people for a moment. I'm seeing this as well. I'm seeing a lot of people saying, I'm moving from Canada, I'm coming to the US. Like, US seems to be the safe space now. I myself have just moved here from the UK, which has a similar problem to Canada in the liberalization and the change of demographics. But I'm also seeing from Canadians a lot of blaming of Trump for this. Now, people are saying that it's Trump derangement syndrome that actually lost the Conservatives the election. And because Trump was joking about the 51st state, and because Trump put tariffs up, that somehow this is why Canada has gone liberal. My argument was that, well, the Liberals have won the last 4 elections now, and Trump wasn't even in office for most of that time. So I think it's a bit of a scapegoat. But is there some truth to that? And is this what you're hearing on the ground?
Yeah, look, I think, the TV debates, the conversation at the doors, the conversation on social media, it's who's going to stand up against Trump. Now, if I think Trump's going to respect someone with similar values to him. Mm-hmm. Okay. I think Trump's going to respect a conservative free market person. Right. Free market, Trump's going to respect someone with similar values,
right.
And we've got all our politicians kind of puffing their chests, sending out these kind of tweets where they're trying to look like they're aggressive. We had Polyev on the day of the election sending out this tweet, kind of like, I'm the guy to stand up to Trump. You can't. Trump posted this tweet in jest that was like, oh, I hope you guys up there vote for me today, and Polyev's clapping back like, don't ever joke about that, bro. And he's just sounding like really, really weak on it. But I think that Trump would respond to people who have similar values to him. Yeah. The rhetoric coming out of Canada right now on Trump is crazy. Carney is over there doing his thing. He's talking about, how we need to form new military alliances because we could be, stood against the U.S. in some ways. What? It blows my mind.
Canada would not stand a chance against the US in a military combat. Come on.
No, I know. The rhetoric coming out of those liberal meetings, like, yeah, it's the age of age of globalization. We have new ties. We have to think about who our allies are again, and that includes renegotiating our relationship with America. That's historically been one of cooperation. It's
that's the crux there, isn't it? This is the age of globalization, and they do want a post-nation Canada. The liberals are globalists. That's a large part of the problem here, isn't it?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of complaining here out of me. I can phrase it this way. If you are someone who wants to have very little money in your pocket, wants to not know your neighbors, have the state be able to knock your door in for mean tweets, you want to not own a car, you want to freeze to death in the winter, liberals are great. Maybe you should vote for them.
Let's look at this graph on the next tweet here. The problem is nothing has changed. So people can blame whoever or whatever they want, but nothing has changed. In 2015, the Liberal Party won with 184 seats. That was their only majority government. In 2019, they won with 157 seats, minority government. 2021, 160 seats, minority government. 2025, 169 seats, minority government. Nothing has really changed. People can say Justin Trudeau was too popular. Well, he's gone now. They can say Trump influenced. Well, Trump wasn't there in those years. Like, what, somehow the Liberals have a grasp over Canada. And so surely we have to at some point look at the demographics of the people voting, which brings me to the next slide, which is Canada doesn't look how I expected Canada to look.
Yeah.
What's happened in Canada? Or where are the Canadians? I thought Canadians were Anglo. I thought there was a strong connection to the Commonwealth. I thought most Canadians were either French or British. The representatives don't seem to represent that.
Yes, that's the problem. It's a problem of accountability. Look, we have, Alberta has it's not about ethnicity, but it's about community and values, and you can't just plug in new things. But Alberta has 65% European population. In the rural areas, it's something ridiculous like 85-90%. And I have anecdotally seen that out here. And look, I'm not surprised by this, Calvin. We have had Canadians who love this country, who have been working their entire lives here, who have now reached pension age, and they're getting 1,700 Canadian dollars a month. But those immigrants that came in during COVID are, look, the reason that I can't quite get these words out is because I can't quite believe it. During COVID, there were all these rules, vaccine passports, you couldn't travel in the country. And at the meantime, at night, people were coming in by the boatload, literally by the plane load of immigrants, and plugged into houses and given cars and given this wonderful life. So I don't blame them for. I'm not surprised for how this has turned out. The average Canadian pension payment is $1,700 for people who have lived and worked their entire lives in this country. Immigrants who came in last year are getting $3,000 a month on average, free cars, free housing, interest-free loans from the banks to start businesses. Canadians in populated areas are struggling to compete with these bank-backed immigrants who have 200,000 Canadian dollars at any point they want without interest. Yeah. So look, the Canada's broken, Calvin. Like the audience need to know this. Like, we have a farming system where farmers were arrested last week for selling too many eggs, going over their quota.
This is my problem, that people seem to have voted for the party that were tyrannous towards the truckers who were fighting for freedom, the party that wanted medical mandates and lockdowns throughout COVID, the party that has caused mass inflation as well as mass immigration, the party that is explicitly anti-Christian, pro-trans. People have voted for this party and they're looking for other people to blame. I think at some point, Canadians have to take some responsibility. And I'm hoping that the sound ones will find a way out, like your good selves in Alberta, if there is a way for Alberta to get sovereignty, and if not, for good Canadians to make a home here in the United States where freedom is abound.
Thank you for watching my Common Sense Crusade. If you'd like to watch the whole show, you can subscribe to lotuseaters.com for as little as £5 per month, and then you get access to a bank of content as well. My show is 3 p.m. every Thursday. See you there. Deus Vult.